Hey, it's Dr. Woodyard, and we're doing a series answering questions from our friends and patients that they might have. And we had a question come in from Carolyn about her granddaughter who had to take some heavy doses of antibiotics when they were younger, and her enamel's damaged now. And she asked, are crowns the only option? So it's an interesting question because it depends on the severity and the place where the teeth are damaged. So if you are very sick when you're young and you have to take heavy doses of antibiotics, there can be some consequences to the permanent teeth as they're developing. So the permanent teeth start developing around 3 and all the way up through around 10 or 11. And if you go through a big sickness or you have to be on certain antibiotics, especially tetracycline or minocycline, you can have effects to the permanent teeth. The actual sickness itself can cause the enamel not to form correctly. It can be decalcified and white or chalky, especially if you have a lot of high fevers. If you're malnourished, that can actually cause problems as well. That can be from vomiting or certain situations where you're just really ill for a long time. The other thing, though, is that the antibiotics, certain ones, as I said, tetracycline, minocycline, can actually stain and discolor the teeth, make them a really dark gray color. And we don't use those as much in kids anymore because we know that. But sometimes, depending on whatever the disease is, it's still necessary. So if you're dealing with primary teeth or baby teeth, typically we're going to try to preserve those until they can come out. And sometimes that will mean like preformed crowns, which are stainless steel, or sometimes they're even, like a tooth color, okay, depending on where they are in the mouth. If we're dealing with permanent teeth, which I think this question was more geared towards, you do have options, and it depends on where the problem is, and it depends on the severity. So if it's in the aesthetic zone, right in the front where it shows, and we're just dealing with some discolorations or decalcifications, a lot of times that can be covered up with what we call direct resins or composite veneers, where we layer on material on the outside surface of the teeth without damaging the teeth underneath. It's much more conservative than crowns. But sometimes if the actual structure of the enamel is compromised and you're going to be dealing with cavities and things like that, or chipping and breaking because of that, crowns might be necessary. So it, like a lot of things in life, it depends, but it depends on the severity of the condition. And it's something that typically in a youngster, preteen to teenage years, we're going to try to hold off on doing any kind of definitive cosmetic type thing like porcelain crowns or veneers, because you're still maturing and the gums are still changing. If you do those restorations too early, the gum line can move and then you get aesthetics that don't look as good. So usually I try to go with something more like direct resins or things like that to get to around 18 to 20, depending on the growth of the youngster. And then we can talk about more like porcelain restorations or things like that if need be. Hope that helps, Carolyn. Thanks for the question. And if you have a question, send it to us and on our social media, and we'll be happy to answer it. Have a great day.